Victoria Sketch Club. And we are fortunate this year to be in the revitalized and rebuilt Glen Lyon Norfolk Junior School Gymnasium, a splendid building and a marvelous place for hosting a show. We have 149 paintings in this show done by 40 artists, and unlike some clubs, this is not a teaching club. You have to be juried to become a member as opposed to having a painting in the show. We don't try and teach people how to paint. They either have the ability to paint before they join or they learn while they're with us, but without us teaching. This club has been active in Victoria for 113 years. It's now survived 2 pandemics, the Spanish flu and the most recent one. And we've missed the last 2 shows for the pandemic reasons where we weren't permitted to have a public gathering. So it was unfortunate, but still, we have at the same time an exhibition set up in Government House, which soon will be open for the public to go through and see. But that has nothing to do with the show. We had an opening last night with Mr. Thomas VSC, who is the governor of the Glen Lyon Norfolk School Society, and he opened the show, followed by the mayor of Oak Bay, Kevin Murdoch. And we had about 275 people go through in the space of the 3 hours. Now, some were spouses or spices of our members, but others were, and there was families that went through and other people. But this morning when I came to open the show up, there was people lined up waiting for me to open the door, which is a refreshing sign, even though the weather wasn't particularly good, but it's marvelous now.
Our last show was in 2019, and we actually had our show set up for 2020, and 3 days before the opening of the show, COVID was declared as a worldwide pandemic. So that shut down the show for 2020. 2021 we didn't have one, and now we're here this year. Some of the artists that are exhibiting today have been able to continue selling their work either through galleries in Victoria that represent them or through their own personal artistic websites. And the 2 great program directors during that time were Pat Hanmarch and Nirmala, who have just been interviewed by you. And the reason I picked them to be interviewed by Vivian today was the fact that these women really held our program together during the last 2 years. We were actually on Zoom every Tuesday afternoon. And a theme would be announced, and then we would send our paintings in, and they would be exhibited at the Zoom meeting and critiqued by everybody who happened to be on that meeting. There was usually 20 to 25 artists on that Zoom meeting. So it was a way of inspiring people to keep working and during difficult times, and with a specific subject in mind, and it ended up being very successful. So instead of sort of falling away from their painting, many of the artists, thanks to the hard work of these 2 individuals in our club, were able to get these Zoom sessions going, and it's really fostered an interest in our club and in what we do over the last 2 years. We've also had a plein air outdoor painting schedule. That's every year, so that worked during COVID if people went out and wore masks and painted in plein air outdoors, usually between the beginning of May and the beginning of September. So our in-house meetings in person take place between September and April every year at the Windsor Pavilion in Oak Bay every Tuesday afternoon. So we're all working away, and there's a very good turnout every Tuesday. People like to support each other, and they like to have a venue to go to paint.
I call this painting Regatta, and it's based loosely on the scene from Island View Beach. I don't know if you remember this the island of Island View Beach, this part there, and I had painted it originally as a plein air painting, realistically. So we had that background and the mountains and everything, and then I thought, why don't I try something different and go towards a more sort of semi-abstract way and push it a little further and see what happens. So it was just a process that I enjoyed really doing once I started. And so it just kind of grew and grew and grew and evolved into this. So these vertical posts were actually some logs that were standing vertically on the beach. So I brought them forward and then put them in the foreground as if they were on the sort of the walkway in Sydney or somewhere like that. I don't like doing the same thing over and over. It's just too boring, really, too repetitive. And I like trying and experimenting new things, and it's more satisfying to me. Yeah. This particular style is different in that I use a lot of black lines separating things like that, whereas those others do not. This is more sort of a flat kind of look, whereas the others have more depth in shading and value and stuff like that. This painting is called A Quiet Time, and it's of acrylic. It's painted in acrylic like the other one. I mostly paint in acrylics these days, sometimes watercolors. And so it's a painting I made up. It's not based on any real person or anything like that, although I have to say that I did model some of parts of it, like the hands and the feet, and the clothing. I asked my husband to sit with a bathrobe, not a bathrobe, a house coat, so that I could get the folds in it. So that was based on real life. Now, because it was, we do a lot of painting from real life in our club. It's still life and people, and we get models and so on. But because of COVID, we were not doing that because we just could not meet as a group because of COVID. And so, and I really do like doing people. So I decided I would make a painting just of this person reading a book. And I suppose I thought about how people were isolated and found activities to do for themselves, and one of them was reading a lot. So sort of ties in with that. She's reading a book and it's a quiet time. And I had to do some research on getting a chair for her to sit in. So I did that, and of course it doesn't look like any chair in the real world. It evolved and became its own chair, and the whole scene evolved. This plant is actually a plant in my house, and as well as the flower pots. They're sort of, I put them all together and created this scene. As I suppose a lot of people were feeling isolated during COVID too, so it kind of says something about that, I think. I think that young children, or any children, I think, as long as they have all the tools, drawing materials and so on, they're very creative. Children are creative. If you give them the materials, they'll make something out of it. Yeah, and another thing I like to say is draw something every day. Try and draw something every day. Sketch. And that's how you build up the skills, by doing. Yeah, you can take lessons, of course, but lessons are one thing, it's doing. Picasso said, that it took him his whole life to paint like a child. And he was a very good artist. Yes, he started off drawing traditionally and painting traditionally. Excellent work. But he said it took him his whole life to paint like a child.
When I go for walks in nature, which I love to do, and the faces start to pop out. These two faces, I really was wowed. I mean, it was like something to find one face in a rock, but to find the gentleness of what nature had made of these two rocks coming together was really special. And I think that's probably why I go back to painting this image over and over again in different ways, because it is such a special image that nature basically threw up at me as I walked by on this particular day. It's incredible how gentle they are together. And there they were. And now, I go back and I see where this rock was. It's shale, so it was sloughed away. It's no longer there. Number of different ways, and it's like revisiting Mount Baker, for instance, over and over again as artists do. I have revisited the Stone Kiss painting image and painted it and painted it. And when I finished painting this one this time, I went, oh, it made me feel good. And I quite liked all the blue and the sharpness of its image. It's about seeing, I think, for me. It's about what I see, and I want others to see those faces that are out there in nature as well. I think we all see them, on the floor, in the wood, in the clouds. We see faces. I think it's in our nature as human beings. Back in the 1990s, and all these faces in the rocks started popping out at me. I kept seeing them, like one there and one there. And my first show was actually a photographic show of the faces in the rocks. And when I was doing painting again, I thought I needed to find my own personal imagery, which was a quote from a prof I had at university, that artists need to have their own personal imagery. And I went, right, I'm seeing these faces in the rocks. That is my imagery. That's what I should paint. Their image of the painting is called Unmasked, because as I painted it, I discovered that there was actually a mask that looks like it's just being slightly removed off the woman's face as she reveals herself. She revealed on the pathway in my garden, and there were some flowers and bits of scattered leaves on the path as well, so I incorporated them in the flow of the painting. She was just there. I had to run and get my camera. I wasn't thinking of taking pictures that day, but she was there. So I photographed it, and when I photograph it, I might have an image that looks like this, which is just the rock, maybe. I have thousands of rock images, and some of them are just so much more powerful than others, and I have to choose which one I would actually spend time painting. And this is one, again from Pender Island, like the Stone Kiss one. And it's incredibly powerful, even right to the light in the eye, which is actually just a flick of something on a cobweb when I look closely in the photograph. But it's there, and it's sculpted, it's strong, and it's ready to be revealed to others.